Just a little while ago, I never expected I'd be getting myself a new bass. But I did just that, and after having acquired the bass, I figured the last thing I would put in it is an EMG active pickup, but yeah, that's happening too. So let's do that. But first, I'm going to talk about what I think of this instrument, a mini review if you will. We've reached a time in human history where we are now paying Mexican Fender prices for Squiers, which is somewhat disappointing. However, in their defense, they do seem to be making better quality Squiers, but they are still Squiers, and that means quality issues, right? So let's see if I can simulate the first problem. Do-do-do-do-do. Yeah. 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 Oh, you're not doing it today, are you, bud? It's subtle, but it's there. So best I could tell, the nut is cut too deep on the A string, so it rattles against the frets. And even though this was a brand new guitar, it came with fretware pre-installed, especially right here where that rattling string was zipping against the fret. And before you ask, yes, I considered the action, I considered the neck relief, and I'm even doing that trick where I added extra wraps to get this angle sharper, and that solved the problem, or a chunk of the problem. It's still not perfect. Not gonna know for sure until I put new strings on this thing. I haven't restrung it yet, though the salesman, being aware of this issue, did throw in a free set of strings. So this is a Squier 40th anniversary P bass, and it was love at first sight. I thought it was sexy as frig. The matte red finish, the roasted maple neck, the like matte distressed hardware. I always wanted a P bass, and I'm thinking, oh well, you know what? I think this is finally a perfect opportunity to get one, because I'm not serious enough a player to justify a nicer, more expensive one. So I'm like, oh, Squier, I need to not get hung up on names, sure, why not? Problem is, I don't know what the value proposition is down in the States and other countries, but here in Canada, one of these is gonna run you over $800 out the door. And for the $800, I was expecting to not have the problems with this thing that I have had. Of the 3 P basses I was looking at, all 3 sounded different. 2 of them were identical. 2 of them were this exact same color model, and they sounded different. And yes, I did consider setup and pickups. When I picked them both up, I noticed one's heavier than the other. This one was 8.6 pounds, the other one was 8 pounds. So there's a deviation in weight. I don't know if that's normal in guitars, but that's kind of sus. Like 0.6 pounds. That might not sound a lot, but I think it's enough that, well, I guess differences in the wood, maybe. Go figure. This one that was slightly heavier, which I do believe 8.6 is spec for a P bass, sounded better. The other one played better, but I ultimately chose this one assuming that I could tweak on the playability. And yeah, I have been able to. Which brings me to the second problem. Right here at the neck joint, there was a gap. Even still, there's a tiny, it's not perfect. You see, I had enough opportunity to play those basses that I could, pick out the differences in them. And even though this one sounded better, it was heavier, something was off about it. Something just wasn't sitting right with me. And I noticed it had that symptom where the saddles were really low to the point where the screws were sticking out a lot to get the action where it needs to be. And that kind of hinted at me that the neck geometry was off. So sure enough, when I looked here, I did notice a gap, and I removed the neck, and I found along the front of the neck joint gobs of paint. Like right here at the top of the neck joint, right around this area, gobs of paint. So the neck was not sitting flat in the neck joint. The neck was cocked a little bit forward, having to have the action artificially lower. So I had to, with this brand new guitar, I had to go in there with a scraper utility knife, carefully peel back that layer, that gob of paint. Eventually, I got this neck joint trued out. Didn't remove any material in the neck joint itself. I just had to get that gob of paint out there. Then the neck sat right, the gap filled up, the action got set back up. I was able to set it to where it belongs. And once you know it, it even sounded better after I did that. What else? Let's see if without taking this apart, I can show you. Oh yeah, bud. Look how straight that screw is, bud. Freaking right, that's that. Oh, look how straight that screw is, bud. Was this pupper put together on a Monday morning or Friday night or what? They just hammered those guys home willy-nilly. Upon further inspection, I noticed that a lot of these screws aren't necessarily sitting straight too. Their heads are a bit cocked. This knob was sitting too low, so it scratched up the pick guard as you turned it. And yeah, so that's what $800 gets you in Canada now. A really sexy looking bass that needs repair right off the shelf. And of course, I'm a DIYer. Doing a warranty could have ended up with a worse situation. Seeing the variance in these, if I had just been like, okay, well, this one's defective. Oh, well, they would have just given me the other one, which didn't sound as good. But in the meantime, let's get into this pickup install. Now, I don't want to restring this thing right away, but I'm pretty sure I can loosen these off. And if it's anything like my jazz bass, I'll be able to swap out these pickups that take the strings completely off. So originally, I was looking at all sorts of P-bass pickups. I was considering the 1/4 pound, but I'm thinking the 1/4 pound might have been too honky for my taste. It was one of those situations like you get a P-bass, you want it to be a P-bass. You kind of like, well, if I go screw it around with some out there pickups, it's gonna lose that effect and that tone. Now, I'm not a big fan of EMG for guitar, but I like them in bass. I like them for clean applications. They can have a very tight and accurate sound. Part of me wishes I didn't get the CS magnet pickups for my jazz bass. I ended up with the P set, whereas maybe if I was going to pick a normal active pickup from these guys, I probably would have got the PAX. Get those Alnico pickups, so it's, within spec for a P bass, and then the X preamp is supposed to be a better preamp. I guess it's going to be better then, right? But no, I ended up with the P, just the plain P, because quite on a whim, I put in a lowball offer for someone with a listing on eBay, not expecting them to take the offer, but they took the offer, and now I got myself a set of P pickups at a deep discount, and I'm okay with that. It's one of those situations where if I can get it for the right price, I'll give her. Otherwise, I was leaning heavily towards these Geezer Butlers. They're passive, and a review that I read on them suggests that they're the closest thing you can get to what an actual P pickup should be, but with the modernization, the little bit better sensitivity and whatnot. I haven't even been in this guitar yet, so I wonder what those quality issues are going to be like. So yeah, some screws definitely not straight. Maybe, I think they could sit nicer, but I don't know, man. That's what I've come to expect now. Now, I didn't initially like these pickups. I've gotten used to them though. If I wasn't in a position to change out these pickups, I think I would be okay with them, though they are a bit noisier. So what I have to compare these to is I have a Mexican Jag bass, which is a PJ configuration. So it has a sets of P pickups, and those are gonna be a higher end than this Fender pickup, not necessarily a higher end pickup. They don't have the same qualities that these guys have. For some reason, these ones sometimes make a little bit of a popping noise when you accidentally touch them, and not necessarily on the metal. The Jag bass doesn't do that. Also, the Jag bass pickups, they sound just a touch more sensitive. So these ones just, they work, but not necessarily ideal. So what do we have in here? Lots of room to work with. That's okay. Got weird splotches of glue or something down here. I'm already seeing right now it might be a challenge to cram a 9-volt in here. Oh boy. Yeah, don't worry, I have provisions for this. They couldn't have made that just a little bit, just a little bit more, It's like maybe we could take some material out here. We'll see. We'll see. All right, so let's release these schmoos. Are we gonna use the original screws, or are we gonna use the screws that came with it? Probably the originals. Oh, this one's tight. I need a different screwdriver. There we go. Got these nice fiber wires. It's like they're trying to be vintage. Why do you bother trying? And of course they hover on the foam pads, which complicates things. Foam pads never usually translate well. And then we have the bridge wire. That's the only guy that's getting in our way right now. Now, funny thing about the bridge wire, I don't think we need it with EMG wiring. I think they even tell you to disconnect the bridge wire for whatever reason. Important, EMG active pickups do not require string ground wire. Do not reconnect the string ground, it is unnecessary. It says unnecessary, which is kind of like a passive, but here it's like important, do not. Okay, bud, so serious. That means all this right here is gonna come, oh, that's a nice crappy grob of solder right there. Alpha pots from Korea. Yeah, the pots didn't seem bad to me. Can you see that? It doesn't look ideal. Like, what are the chances that's just gonna pop right off because it looks like a cold solder joint. It might not be. It might be fine like underneath. Yeah, it just looks like a crappy solder joint, but it is working. Trying to do this without scratching up my guitar. All right, that wire's disconnected now. This will all just lift right out in one piece. And this guy, we could just kind of tuck it away, right? So, orientation. Look at the diagram. Diagram number 1. It says this one here, the secondary coil, is the EA side. See if I can label it as such with this. EA. Okay, there we go. Get in the game. We'll just put that label on that one side. It should do. That means this pupper's gonna go up here. So should I get springs involved, or do I need to salvage these freaking these little spiffs here that aren't gonna come out without a fight? Covers are partially glued on, loosely so. These screws are shallow, which means it's hard to get a proper grip on them. However, this one was oriented nicely. The tone with the screw oriented completely down. I liked the way it was oriented because it meant when I turned it and I could see the screw, I was at about 50%, and that hit a sweet spot for me. So I'm gonna kind of try to re-simulate that screw position. So yeah, that's some good news. It looks like they're using reasonably decent pots. They're not the kind of pots that you need to upgrade. Though, you know, pots don't need to be upgraded for the sake of upgrading them, for the most part. It's the kind of thing where if you get a guitar and you know it kind of has like crappier pots, just use them. They're just not gonna last as long and you're gonna have to change them out later. But don't upgrade pots for the sake of upgrading pots. Like, I guess if you're doing a full pickup upgrade and all that, you know, it's gonna be the last time you're cracking her open, you might as well do it while you're in there kind of thing. Maybe that philosophy makes sense. It's nice that we still have the plastic covering stuck under these things in such a way that you would have to take the guitar apart to get all that stuff out. And yeah, that's basically the control set right there. We don't have to do anything else to it. It just comes right out. We'll put our various nuts and bolts back on. That looks like a cheaper jack, but good enough for now. And they're A250Ks. So we now have some 250K pots to work with. I wonder if I could have gotten just a little bit more sparkle out of this bass if I went 500K. These are some nice fluffy wires here. Okay, so EMGs and pads don't get along because what happens is we have this quick disconnect here. So you can't really put the pad there. It'll just push on that. And if you try to offset it, sometimes I find EMGs will sit funny after because they're not properly supported. Maybe springs might be the answer. Some long chunky springs underneath to hover them. You know what? Let's make sure. Yeah, okay, we're good. Wouldn't that suck if the pickups didn't fit through the hole? Quite by magic, searching through some old pickup boxes the other day, I found some fresh Long Johnson springs, which might be just what the doctor ordered to get these things to hover that high. So yeah, don't know if the EMG kit includes some long springs, but you might want to consider getting them because the foam pads ain't gonna work well. So this was a used pickup. Date says 2008, which is great. It comes with the old logo. I prefer the old logo over the new one. So like this is pretty much, this is great. It's ready to go. This is pre-quick disconnect. That pretty much just gonna drop in, fit right there, ready to go. And I didn't test these pots, but no reason to suspect foul play. They look and feel good. Decent, 1/4" fresh jack, our battery holder, which might be inadmissible in the court of law because I don't think we're gonna be able to fit a battery in here. And I'm not prepared to route this out, especially if I have to make a warranty claim. It's one thing to blop in a new pickup, but to be like, hey, I cut it. I cut it all up, bud. So I see how it is. This is the DG side. That's gonna be closer to the control cavity. So we're still gonna stuff some foam under here, but looser foam. They're not going to be able to support the pickup, but they're just gonna kind of help fill the void, just maybe dampen vibrations a bit. Okay, this is gonna be fun. The spring is way longer than the screw, and it'll only allow it to go down so far. We'll start with this side first. That's when you kind of need 3 hands, because you got to hold this long ass spring in place while you press down on this pickup. With that spring fully compressed, we're seeing this much excursion. If we could simulate our action, yeah, it looks like it's gonna be about good. It's even got a bit more. We'll just squish that cat down all the way. Or the screw itself's bottoming out because that's about as much as it was screwed in before. Okay, so I have to kind of fish these wires around. We'll make this fold underneath. Like that. These are the springs I'm going to use on the other pickup because they're shorter and that pickup often has to duck down a bit more on here, this side. So, oh, there's the other spring I'm looking for. Yay. Just have to kind of finagle that into place now. Oh, how are we going to make this happen? It's already sticky outy too muchy. Ah, this is like herding cats. It's like we just want that spring to sit straight here real quick so we can kind of... Oh, you're not even getting a focus on this. Frick at this camera, bud. Surely there was an easier way to do this that I'm not used to. The surface of the inside of the pickup cavity is so rough, the spring gets hung up when I try to slide it around. Oh, I think I got it though, bud. Okay, I don't think we got it straight, but so before we drive that home, let's loosen this screw, let it feel it bump, and then get her in there straight, unlike the people originally built it. Spring action, great. Let's get our EA. And of course, like the old school, that pointer is out. Okay, so one method I've done before, let's try this. This gets a screw into place, gets another screw into place. Let's flip this pupper up, slip the springs on. Springs are still right long. I take some powerful magnets, stick them like on the screws, and that keeps the springs on the screw. Also sticks it to the string itself. That's wonderful. Oh, there's 2 different pickup holes in here, bud. It's like they got it wrong and then they, oh frick. You're funny, bud. So which hole's the correct hole? See, that's always why they're gonna use foam. Lining up springs under a pickup is a pain in the arse. I think I got it. I'm not sure which one of those holes to use. So let us just slip the pickguard over here real quick to kind of get a feel for, oh, that's gonna be a nuisance. You gotta finish your sentences, bud. Feel for making sure that those pickups are aligned properly, since there's like 2 potential holes it can go into. It feels like the answer to that question is no, or maybe yes. No, that screw doesn't feel right. If I can press down on it and the pickup's not popping back up, it's because that screw hole is wrong. Oh boy, this thing's stuck on here now. I'm grinding bits of plastic off the side of the pickup. Can I just maybe release this screw and move it to a different hole? Oh, that did something. Did I get it into the different hole? No, I don't think I did. Okay, let's re-aim ourselves here, bud. Snoot that down to the other hole. It's a feature, not a flaw. You have adjustment options. Now let's try it. All right, seems a little bit better. Tighter against this guy. I'm worried that that screw might have gone in straight. This one's spinning freely. This one's spinning tightly. But it is adjusting freely, so that's what matters here. Okay, even though it's a bit crooked. Why are you crooked? I'm gonna try reseating this screw one more time. That feels a bit better. All right, cut, print. Let's deal with the electronics. Oh, much challenge, bud, the electronics. What is this random white here? Is that where they didn't anodize this so it makes better connection? Because it needs to ground out this entire plate to block interference, right? These only come with 1 set of nuts. Does the nuts on the original pots fit on here? Because we are going to need to adjust the height of these pots. And that's one reason why your knobs will grind if the height of the pot is not set correctly. So that requires a little bit of fiddling. This guy included lock washers. That's nice. No real fast, dirty trick to make this work for us. Just kind of put them in there, bud. And yes, the original nuts are thread compatible with these EMGs. So we have to take a new loose knob and it's bottoming out. So we need to raise it, which means we got to loosen the inner nut. Wish I had a friggin' driver or wrench small enough to get in there. Still bottoming out. Oh, we're going all the way here. Maybe we don't need 2 sets of nuts. Oh, there we go. It's hovering just slightly. There's a little bit of gap there. Do we want to try to close that gap a little bit? We can try to fine tune it a little bit further. So we'll raise this just a scotch. Oh, too much. It's fine tuning, bud. How anal do you want to be? I think that might be a good sweet spot there. Let's try it. Snug this knob up so it's not sitting all wampus and... It just came loose instantly. Come on, bud. Get real. The hole in these knobs is actually a bit big. Yeah, I think that's gonna be good. Snug it up. Now, that's assuming both these knobs are cut to the same dimensions. Oh yeah, see, this one sits deeper. Huh, interesting. There's variances in the knobs themselves. So we'll just sit this one like all the way down. Whoa, even all the way down, this is going down too far. What's going on here, bud? Okay, this one fits better. I guess there's variances in the pots too. We have to fuss over what knob goes on what pot. That's hilarious. So one's gotta be a dedicated volume and the other's gotta be dedicated a tone. But the one that I'm gonna put on the tone now sits a bit deeper, which means we gotta adjust this. Well, that coincidentally all works out. We just bottom these pots out with a lock washer and a nut in place and boom. We're gonna get the correct height we need for... Just have to make sure we put the right knob on. Oh, they didn't give us a lock washer with the jack, bud. Well, aren't you just fun? Probably pretty sacred. They also didn't give us an inner nut. Fortunately, I keep a stock of these kinds of parts, so let's see how this is gonna sit like this. One could tweak it to be a bit more flush, but I'm not going to fuss too much. Snug her up. Okay, well, those controls are in place now. It's so simple. There's nothing to this. We just have to determine if I'm going to be able to cram a battery in here. Prognosis does not look good. I'm pretty sure the pots are not going to fit over this. Certainly not going to fit under the jack. We can't lay this battery down. So another alternate solution is if you don't use all the controls. I did that once before. I didn't use the tone knob, and then you'd be able to fit it under here. But for a P base, we need a tone knob, bud. We need a tone knob for a P base. So with this ground wire, just got to trim off the very end of it. It's not going to get in our way. There's only one solution that I can do to this without routing it out, and that's an external power supply, which is a project I was mentally prepared for. I saw this coming. I knew I wasn't going to be able to fit. So let's get this finish wired here. So a quite standard procedure. Put our little wire through here. We wrap it. We tack it. And then you see the shield here. We're just going to solder that to the pot. Make sure we have our pot turned all the way in one direction. One way you damage pots is if they get too hot while the sweeper is mid-sweep, it can burn off that section. It's less likely to happen if the pot is seated in one direction or the other. Gotta pre-do that. Get that a bit going there. Melt and fuse that on there. So we should have connection now, which means if we can get power to this, we'll try real quick just to function test it. Sometimes I just connect these power wires with a wire nut, even in the guitar itself. Here I am calling them wire nuts. I've called them maraes all my life. Let's tension a string up a little bit. So with the guts hanging out, yeah, that pot's good. That's good. Hey, I already think I'm gonna like the sound of these. Mind you, this isn't the amp I usually play. All right, it's past function test. How are we gonna solve this power issue? Well, my plan was an external power supply, which semi-complicates things. It might not be the solution you want, but it's the solution I'm going with. So we gotta get our battery off of this ring terminal, as it's called. The basic idea is we're gonna use a TRS cable, so we're gonna get a stereo patch cord. And then the ring terminal, that our tip's gonna stay signal, our sleeve's gonna stay ground, but our ring terminal is going to pass the DC positive. So we're gonna take our pickup power and connect it directly to the ring terminal here, or try to. Frig bud. It's a less convenient option, but it's what we're gonna do for now. When I'm feeling more ambitious, I may go ahead and route this thing out. One last final touch is I do like to stuff foam in these cavities. Just fit that pickguard back into place. Yeah, nice. Hammer all these screws back home. Fresh. Don't over torque them. Yeah, you can see some of these holes don't line up perfectly with the pickguard. That's the reason why the screws went in wonky. Uh-oh. What's this? We got a pinch. Yeah, a bit of wire. Fricker. Just shim something in there. Push that wire down. There's always that one nutter who doesn't want to play along, right? There we go. Oh, that screw was a bit loose. Oh, that one's stripped out already. Factory stripped hole. Nice. I think that would be relicking. This thing's actually worth the money then. I think we should get enough signal out of this to excite the tuner at least. Yeah. Even if you don't power EMGs, you still get some signal out of them. It'd be a lame signal, but signal nonetheless. Oh, now that we have tension, we see our pickups are super low. So let's fine tune on that. Hopefully we have enough spring. Oh, this screw is nice and wonky. Oh yeah, we got plenty of spring. That looks good. What's this sound like without... Wow, that's amazing the tuner picked up anything at all. Let's get the knobs on. Final touch here. Remember, these knobs sit at different heights, so first try. Gonna orient it screw directly down. This one's bottoming out against the pot. Okay. So sometimes, if they're sitting too low, the opening of the knob bottoms out against this, and it scrapes, and it doesn't feel good. That means this has to come up a bit. You suck, bud. Maybe we backbore this a bit. Yeah, this one too, eh? Well, if you use a little bit of screw tension, we can feel it out. We can kind of force it on and off. Once we hit a spot we think we like, let's try tightening it up now. These screws are too shallow. Like, why don't you just cut the screw a little deeper? I almost want to replace these screws. Yeah, look at that. There's like no depth in that screw. These screws are friggin' annoying. This screwdriver has a bit of a fatter tip on it. Snug it up a bit, and then we can just kind of pull it back. Gee, fine tuning on these knobs, the most annoying part, but there they are. Ugh. This one's sitting super wonky. Oh boy, that's annoying. And it's, what do we have here? Pivot? Oh yeah. That's great. Oh boy, you're starting to irritate me, bud. All right, one trick is to actually shim said knob. I got some cardboard here. It's got a little bit of thickness. I'm gonna cut a piece small enough to jam in the knob hole. Press it down in there. That gives the knob something to bottom out against, which I think is still not enough. Let's try it. I can't believe these screws. They nice wonky knobs. Ugh. I feel something dragging. Okay, I think you get the idea with the knobs, but I'm gonna fine tune on those on my own time. You know what? I actually like the way that looks. That looks nice. We just have to get power to it, which is gonna require an external power supply, which is gonna be in another video. Perhaps I will post that video before I post this one so you can see the power supply. Let's cut to after I've finished the power supply. Okay, so I built this power supply, just kind of hammered it together. I got a TRS cable. I'm gonna have to cut some more of these nice patch cables that are TRS to accommodate this. And I'm just using a Crate BV60 combo. It has a good clean tone, so for a quick and dirty bass amp, it's fine. As you can hear, there's no sound. That's way hotter than the last pickups. In fact, something about this particular rig is hotter than my other rigs. I have another bass that has active pickups and this thing seems louder than it. We're gonna have to fine tune maybe a bit on these pickup heights. It looks nice. Still learning slap. Well, I think it works. How good it sounds is yet to be determined. I got a noodle on this on my actual bass amp, not this tinny sounding fun box over here. But yeah, very, very different. I think I'm gonna enjoy this for now. I think I'm gonna like these for now. Oh, wait, we have a tone knob. Yeah, these pickups are brighter. And it's like if we strategically roll up the tone, we kind of get the same sound as the stock pickups. Maybe even roll back a bit of volume. It's like, I don't know, 90% volume, 85% volume, feels more like the old pickup again. Alright, I need an ending to this video, bud, because I gotta go eat now. It's past my dinner time because I had to do this too. So, if you enjoyed this, stay tuned because I like wiring up guitars sometimes. And I have other projects coming down the pipe, I do think. Yeah, it's entirely possible. But hey, I'm always up to something. So find out what I do next.